Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Samantha Emmerling, market editor with Aspire Design and Home magazine. I'm lucky to be here today with four special guests. Here we have industry icon David Sutherland and internationally renowned interior designer Timothy Corrigan. Also joining us is Elan Atelier co-founder Christopher Noto and NYC-based interior designer KD Reed. Our panel today will walk us through the pros and cons of product customization and how the market has been affected by the pandemic. We all love custom pieces, but truly never understand what goes into making and creating these pieces and the process that goes into creating them. David Sutherland and Christopher Noto will share their insights from a manufacturing perspective, with Timothy Corrigan and KD Reed sharing their personal experiences as designers. David Sutherland, before we get started, I wanted to say a big thanks to David Sutherland and the D&D building for hosting this discussion and our panelists for being here today. We are so excited to hear your thoughts on this topic. But before we dive in, I'd love to ask each of you to say a few words about yourself, if you could, just by way of introduction. And David, I'll ask you to get this started if you may.
Thank you, Sam. I started in the interior design industry in 1977 with my first showroom in Houston. There was no space in Dallas. It was a very busy time in our economy, and there was no place to go except to Houston. So I started there. I worked for 17 years as an independent rep with showrooms in Dallas and Houston until 1994 when I started Sutherland Furniture. The fabrics came along shortly thereafter with my wife and partner Ann in 1996. We opened our own mill for textile weaving in 2005 in San Luis Potosi, Mexico. We started the rugs as a result of our participation in the Monaco Yacht Show for 11 years. We started the rug operation in 2011, and we opened our own mill in India in 2020. We have approximately 700 weavers and 200 looms. We're up to about 1,243 employees now, I'm told. So it's been quite a ride, but everything we have done has been evolutionary. We've never tried to reinvent the wheel. We've never tried to reach out into an area that well, everything was an experience, let me tell you that, but it was, everything came about as a result of our own needs for our own products. So it's been quite a ride, and my partner Ann has been in charge of what we used to call little sister, perennials, and now she's big mama. So we're very, very fortunate that operation has done as well as it has, and we've chosen to use solution dyed acrylic in our rugs exclusively, so they have the same properties as our fabrics. And it's just been a great ride. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. And Christopher, could you say a few words about yourself and your atelier?
Of course, of course. So I am the co-founder of Elan Atelier along with my partner Allison Legge. She's based in Lake Tahoe. I'm based in New York City and also in Paris. And Elan is an offshoot of an earlier incarnation of mine, which was in Asia, where actually I met David and Ann many years ago when they walked into my retail store. But I had a retail store, and it was very fortuitously located right next to the offices of Aman Resorts and GHM Hotels. So over many, many years, about 20 to be exact, we developed a lot of properties together. And so we did notably in America, we did the Setai in Miami. We've done projects like Amanyara and Turks and Caicos, and these were completely bespoke furniture sort of fabrication. So Elan is a bespoke maker. We really specialize in what we call noble materials, so bronze, parchment, shagreen, lacquer, gilding, gesso, things like that. So we're a very artisanal fabricator. We're not a production line company. So we really are specialists in custom and bespoke, and we do create collections which we sell in retail showrooms throughout the US, including Sutherland. But we are, I would say, full 60% of our manufacturing is custom and bespoke. So that's a few words about Elan.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I will ask you, Timothy, a little bit about yourself.
Great. So I started as an interior designer in 1998. I was very lucky, and I think by the year 2006 was named to the AD 100 top designers and architects in the world. We have offices in Los Angeles and Paris, and you can see in this picture right here, I'm very lucky to work with Perennials on a collection of fabrics and rugs. There's wonderful Anne Sutherland, who is truly, Anne and David have become two of my closest friends. It's been a wonderful collaboration. It's been really so much fun. I also have collections with Schumacher, with Samuel Sons, with Kyle Bunting, and THG Paris. I'm probably forgetting a couple, but I really love doing product design because it really marries very much my background in marketing and advertising. So that bringing that together with interior design is really something that I really love. So I think that's background on me.
Wonderful. Busy, busy, busy. And KD, please take it on from here.
Hey everyone, I'm Katie Reed, Jersey based. So I've been in the industry for about 4 or 5 years now, just learning from some of the industry greats. And I launched my firm last year during the pandemic, and just one of the newest in the industry that's willing looking to change the game.
All right. Well, and congratulations on starting the new firm. It's exciting. So before we dive into the real bones of this, I had been speaking with someone about customization, and there seemed to be a lot of terms thrown around the terminology of customization. I've heard fully custom, semi-custom, customized, customizable, ground up. That's about as many as I've heard. I'm sure there are more, but I was wondering, David, if for the purposes of our discussion, if you could sort of define the big ones for us so that we know what everyone's referring to in this discussion. So we'll take something like, what is the difference between custom and customizable?
Custom is something you do on a napkin. Customizable is something that you do a variation of an existing piece. Fully custom is the same thing as a napkin, and doing something from the ground up is always is essentially the same as doing it from on a napkin. And a lot of projects work that way. We do about 10 to 15% of our business is done in custom, the napkin sort of things. But it's a tough job, particularly in furniture. A little bit different in rugs. So
could you elaborate on that a little bit, the two divisions and the advantages or disadvantages of doing custom within those categories?
We with our furniture, our average order is about 15 to 20 pieces. If a customer comes to us and wants a very special piece for a certain location or whatever, we will do that as a part of our offering, just to make the project perhaps a little more unique. Our production area for custom is the same as our prototyping area for products that we want to bring into the market. So it's a very small shop. They take a lot of time to do something, and when you get a custom item from us in furniture, it's not a matter of price. We don't take any excess profits on doing something in custom, but it does add to the time frame because each piece is unique and requires engineering. It requires a great deal of thoughtfulness. Even if it's a variation of something we do, we have to make sure that it's safe. We have to make sure that we actually want to make sure that it's good looking. We don't, we have turned down orders of things that we felt were particularly ugly. So we do express ourselves in that process. On rugs, as Timothy knows, we start from an idea, from a sketch. We've done a beautiful rug for his home there in France, and are so excited to see it at some point when we can all travel as freely as we want to. But it all starts from a sketch. It all starts from colors, and our rugs are hand knotted, the ones that Timothy favors, and each knot can be a different color. We have, as our color palette, we have over 6,000 color palms. So there's not much that we can't do in terms of customization. So it starts from a cartoon, if you will, and it moves from there to a computerized version. We'll do a strike off if a customer wants it. Once that's approved, then we go into full production. The interesting thing, I'm not sure a lot of your people know this, a lot of the designers know this, but if you've got a rug that's say 9 by 12, if you've got a 12-foot width, you probably have 4 people working on it at one time, sitting side by side, addressing the loom, and they can only tie enough knots to make about 4 inches a day. So when we say something is custom in the rug world, it is totally custom down to every single knot. There may be 80,000 knots in a square meter. So you can see that we actually get up probably into the millions of knots on an oversized rug. So it's quite an undertaking, and we love it.
Incredible, and it really does explain the process. It explains how much work goes into it, but also why it takes so long. And I mean, not necessarily every piece, but there's a value in custom pieces and waiting for them. And it's good for people to hear, I think, what goes into it, like you just described. So thank you for that. And Christopher, I wanted to ask you, I think you said, I forget the percentage you gave us for how much is custom in your work, but it's the majority. Sorry, you said 60?
60 to 70, I would say now, and growing, always growing.
And growing. So could you tell me about your processes and maybe the advantages of your 60% of doing custom versus more stocked pieces?
Sure. Well, we love stock pieces as well, because we've learned that people will buy what you have available. So that's great to have, and we try to do more and more of that. We're investing in that. However, having said that, the more we work with designers and go through the custom process, the more they come to us. So it's like a feedback loop that is ever increasing, I would say. David was talking about rugs. We have a similarly, I would say, complex process with bronze, because we use a traditional method, which is lost wax casting. And that's really, you're creating a mold. You're creating a sculpture, basically, every time you create a new piece or a custom piece. So we create that in clay or wax or some other similar material. And then you create a silicone mold, then you pour the bronze. There's several steps, chasing, and there's several things involved to realize that. So it's really, it's a very specific and artisanal process, which takes quite a bit of time. So we have a huge warehouse of molds now. We keep collecting them, and we, after doing this for several years, we find we can pull out an old mold and maybe, use that to create a new piece. So it's, the customization in bronze is really, you're only limited by your imagination. And then we have a lot of other, what I like to call, plug and play materials almost, that you can use for surfaces, for example. So we have straw marquetry, we have, gesso, shagreen, parchment, lacquer. So various timber finishes and various gilding techniques. So there's kind of, the sky's the limit in terms of possible combinations of what we already have, not even to mention just coming up with something completely new on the napkin, which we do a lot and increasingly with designers. So that's really fun process. We love it.
I love the cocktail napkin, but actually you mentioned something in the beginning. I think you called it like a feedback loop with the interior design community. So let me ask Timothy then, as the interior designer, I guess I'll start with how much of your projects involves custom work in light of what Christopher just said in terms of the feedback.
I would say that other than textiles, fabrics specifically, around 90% of the work that we do is custom. and frankly, I think that is the future of interior design, at least high-end interior design. I think that customers, clients are increasingly asking for custom. They're asking for bespoke things that are unique to their homes. And frankly, as more and more product becomes available to clients through internet, through all different forms of being able to access material and product from around the world, I think our reason for being as interior designers is going to be in providing custom to our clients. So I think that we've got a number of clients who will say to us, gee, they want everything in their home to be unique and specific to their home and not to see things that they're going to, in their friends' houses, that they would find in their own. And I think that, so I think that we do a lot of it. We do, if it's not antiques, it's most likely going to be custom. Even down to lighting, we'll do a lot of custom lighting as well. Lighting is more difficult thing to get into custom, but we even do a lot of custom lighting as well.
Interesting. And KD, how about you? How much of your projects involves custom work?
I would say it varies on the scope of the project. Also, more of my residential projects, I would say about like maybe 20% of it is probably custom. And it's because more of my clients is like millennials and they're coming into like early investment into their home and their spaces. So me as a designer, I really try to do my best to try to educate them in the value of trying to, incorporate that one sort of piece in their house that's going to make them special. Whereas though on the other side, when I'm dealing with like commercial projects, the client more so understands the longer lead time, the value of it. So I would say on the commercial scale, it's probably about like maybe 60%. There's more of acceptable because they understand the process and they're willing to wait for the quality of what they want.
I'll just continue with that, for the millennials or I say any clients of yours who maybe need to be educated, what is your party line? How are you explaining this to them, the value of doing this as opposed to, stocked or made to order items? What are you telling them?
Once again, like just to piggyback off of Timothy, as he mentioned, like a lot of my clients, they want that unique, that wow factor. They want kind of sort of when they guests to come over to sort of have those one of a kind pieces. So that's what I try to upsell them on. Just really just starting to create, now that they have already invested into their place, I try to educate them on the value of investing into certain pieces. So that way it becomes like a generational transition, something that you can kind of sort of carry on as a family heirloom as well.
I like that. I like that a lot. And
it's interesting. I think what I find interesting is that with clients, we don't. It's not even a question of upselling them. We will show them a sofa. We'll show them 6 different sofas, and we'll say, "Gee, do you like the arm of this and the back of this?" And we create that. We don't charge any more for doing custom than we do for regular. But it really ends up being a product that they feel so much more ownership of, because they actually were a part of the creation of it. And we get them involved on doing sit tests and going and sitting at the workroom where it's made, et cetera, so that they really do come away at the end of the project feeling that this was all made for them. And I think they have a greater sense of pride and ownership, and it doesn't necessarily have to cost them any more money.
Wonderful.
If I may I just add something?
Yes, of course.
I think what Katie said hit the nail on the head, because for those people who are particularly interested in ecology and in sustainability, there's nothing more sustainable than something that's made for you. And if it's made from beautiful materials, it's something you'll hand down. It's not something that'll wind up in a trash bin somewhere. So for those who are interested in sustainability, doing custom work and buying from top-notch suppliers with top-notch materials is the way to describe that, I think.
Beautifully said. And I love the idea of like KD said, the heirlooms for future generations, but then also, like you said, just the sustainability aspect and angle I think a lot of people miss. So thank you for pointing that out. And I wanted to also ask the people, well, I'll ask Christopher first. During the pandemic, how has all the production capabilities, how have those changed? The demand for custom, how has that changed over the last year and a half?
We have seen a pretty dramatic increase in requests for custom over the past year. And I think a lot of that is, maybe a function of a lot of people sitting at home, looking around and talking to their designers and saying, how do we improve this place? How can we make this better? Or, for this new project, there's a lot more thought going into things. And, as you know, with anything in life, the more thought that goes in, the better the result is that comes out. And we're definitely seeing that. I mean, almost, the majority of my days are spent talking to designers about custom, and that was not the case before the pandemic. So it's been a pretty dramatic increase. And, again, what Katie mentioned, creating the antiques of the future, that's how we like to think of what we're doing. So it's a process that requires a lot of thought and time, and maybe the pandemic has given us some of that.
Love that. And David, have you found similar, is it similar for you in Sutherland and perennials?
We were so fortunate in that we have a bevy of seamstresses in both Sutherland and perennials, and over our various facilities around the world, we've made and donated over 100,000 masks. And we started within the first week of the shutdown, which we were providing masks to the hospital people, to the first responders, to police. And there was never any question of whether we were going to stay open. We received that sort of essential classification at the very beginning. And it enabled us to continue to receive our product and to ship product with safe distancing and masks and so forth. So I think we treated it in a very adult way, and it kept our doors open. And I can't say that the custom demand did grow a bit. We find a lot of demand in dining tables. So those things often get changed around and become a custom project. So can I say that the pandemic created more custom work? Only marginally.
And KD, from the interior design side on your projects, did the pandemic change anything in terms of how much custom work you do or did do in the past year and a half? Does this all coincide at all? I'm curious.
I would say because more people has been at home because of the pandemic, it's kind of sort of made them want to reinvest in their household. And I would say I have had an increase of custom dining tables as well. I have had so many different, and just because it's been used as a double duty in the household, like I've had people use it as their extended office, the children's kind of sort of go to the formal dinner table as well. So I would say it's been kind of sort of half and half, but I would say, yeah, more so it's been an increase for me. And really because I think brands are kind of sort of making it relatable and understandable, where a lot of my clients are actually requesting it and they're understanding the custom process more. And when I say custom, I want to say customizable, because they're really going with a lot of stock things and just kind of sort of altering them, whereas though it's like upgrading a fabric that's not provided by the brand or something, or just like wanting to do altering with lighting and stuff. So I have been having an increase in the more the custom bespoke pieces that they requested from my clients.
Timothy, you as well? Sounds like it.
Yeah, I mean, we've always done it, so I've not seen really a huge increase. What we have done is we've been doing more and more custom. I will tell you, Dave will be happy to hear this, but more and more custom perennials rugs. And one of the reasons because of that is that frankly, perennials I think is the future of all rugs with solution dyed acrylic, and they are getting better and better at custom rugs. And I'm just loving working with them on that.
Thank you, Timothy.
So you've all spoken about, this past year and how that's changed. And Timothy, yesterday, when we just did a little quick call, you were so passionate about the future of custom and its place in the design world. And I know you spoke to it earlier in this conversation here, but if you could just reiterate what you said, because it was so powerful and your passion was really infectious, and I'd love to hear your point of view again.
No, it's interesting because I really do believe that that for designers, the future is customization. That I remember recently I hired a designer who'd been very successful on his own for many years, and he came to us and he'd never done any custom work before, and I was like, I just couldn't even imagine that, because to me that's really what a designer does, is they bring more than just going shopping and finding what's available. So I think that really is the future. I think that to me the real challenge is going to be for manufacturers to figure out how to cut the lead time on custom products, because people are less and less patient than they've ever been about, they expect something now. They expect it the next day. You place it the order now. Why isn't it ready next week? And that's going to become, and they're going to have the same expectation with customization and totally customized. So I think the real challenge for a lot of manufacturers is going to figure out how to gear up for that. I know that one manufacturer actually has introduced what they call need time, not lead time, but need time, so that if you want something faster, you pay a premium for that. Whereas if you're willing to wait 4 months or 6 months, you pay less. And I think that that's an interesting way to look at it. I think that the companies are going to have to figure out how to respond more quickly. We all know that we've got lead time problems on almost all products right now because of the pandemic. And I think that's going to be an issue that's going to have to be addressed over the next couple of years, because I do think customization is going to increase.
And are you saying that we can increase our prices if we can get it to you faster?
I do believe so. I think here's what I think is, I think that manufacturers can be charging a premium for customization. And I think that they're currently not. Like just you were saying earlier, we don't charge any more for that. I think you should be charging a little more for something that's customized, because it's more work for you. So I think that you can. And I think then there's the issue of, if it's going to be customizable, if it's customized, what is the cost? If you need it more quickly, then there should be a higher premium for that. If you can live with a normal lead time, then fine, then that you price it accordingly. But I think that shorter lead times, let's face it, you're putting extra manpower in to get it in that product done faster. You should be charging that on to the supply to the client.
Thank you for permission. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Christopher, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I believe that, customization in terms of, lead time is a big factor. I think we're a bit different than the usual factory in the sense that we're set up as a very bespoke. We don't have a production line per se, so each piece is individually made. So what Timothy said, exactly right. I mean, we hear all the time, we do upcharge for custom. It's necessary for several reasons. I mean, and the upcharge is not fixed. It just depends on what the customization is. It might require a lot more polishing if it's a polished underside, for example, versus the standard, which is a dark, normal bronze finish. So a lot of that is a calculation of labor and materials and things like that. However, we really try to I believe what Timothy said is absolutely right in terms of people get more and more demanding, and as more customization comes down the pike, they're going to want it faster and faster. So we really try to keep it. We have a, probably 8 to 12 week lead time for standard and for custom. We don't really differentiate. It's, if there is some logistical issue because of the pandemic, obviously we've had a lot of logistics to worry about. And that's what's caused the lion's share of delays. Sometimes if you're customizing something where maybe the marble top is coming from Italy and the bronze base is coming from Asia, and we have to put it together in Los Angeles, there's all kinds of logistics things that can go wrong there. But other than really logistics, we are set up as a bespoke production facility, so we don't have those issues so much of having extra long lead times for custom.
Wonderful.
Which is interesting. I think that one of the things that is so key. And you touched upon this earlier, Sam, is that so much of a designer's job is education, is to educate a client about the process of how things are made, why
Sure.
this table is more special than that table. I think education is a key thing. And when you explain to them, gee, you know, this rug is going to take, you've got 4 people there and they're going to get, you know, there are, you know, a million knots in this rug. It all of a sudden it starts to make some sense to them, and it puts things in perspective. I know that with tassels and trims, those are all hand tied. People once you explain that to a client and they understand that, gee, there's on that curtain there's 30 or 50 tassels and each one of those has been hand done, they actually have a greater appreciation for the product. They also have a greater appreciation for the time that it takes to get that product. And they also, I find, are willing to pay a little more because they understand that it is something that is more bespoke and is more, or is hand done versus machine done. So again, it comes back to education. Educating your client, to me, is one of the most important things.
Totally.
Well, Timothy, I liked earlier how you said you incorporate the client and make them a part of the process. I do find that very, very helpful when I'm educating them and really trying to upsell them on a custom piece, because it does make sure, it does bring that ownership back to them to kind of sort of brag to their friends. And they kind of sort of, yes, I was a part of this. So that kind of sort of just goes hand in hand with just kind of sort of just tying those knots together.
Absolutely. That pride that the client takes when they understand how something was made, that they feel they were a part of the process, it is a win-win for the product, for the designer. Everyone comes away with a better feeling because they really feel that they have been a part of it and they were listened to as, you know, as a client, et cetera.
Wonderful. Well, I think I've got all my questions in that I wanted to ask. And so I wanted to open it up to the audience, see if there are any questions for the panelists here. I'm just gonna see what we've got coming in. Oh, we don't have any questions yet. I'm gonna give it just a second. I like to think it's because we covered all the bases. But let's see. Well, before as I wait, does anyone have anything else they'd like to add? Oh, here, we have one here. David, are there limitations to what you can customize in rugs, design-wise?
Well, if there are, I don't think we found them. We started with a collection from an artist, Sam Glenkoff, who was a terrific artist, and we found ourselves having a particular pixel. Every pixel was a different color, and we found it very hard to customize. We've reworked that now so that we can make it within the criteria that we have. So reproducing art is probably a difficult thing, but Tim comes to us with a traditional pattern or something that has been done for not his design necessarily, but some sort of look that's been traditional for, you know, hundreds of years. And we tackle those jobs, and I think we are very successful at it. Rugs are probably the easiest thing to not the easiest thing to customize, but the most expected. And we've got a great team who can make that happen.
And I will just echo that. I've probably given Perennials 30 different rug designs, custom rug designs to do for clients, and they really knock it out of the park. So they can do it very well.
Wonderful. We have another question that's open to any and all. What was your favorite custom piece or project that you've done, we'll say, you know, recently, or I guess at all? It doesn't specify.
I would say for me, I recently, last year, I did the Kingston Design Show House, and I got to work with this brand called From the Source, which is in Chelsea, NYC. And I used the shop a lot for like my projects, and they'd had these beautiful, beautiful petrified wood pieces. And I knew that I wanted to kind of sort of encapsulate that and do something really unique and different, because I've always seen them in the form of like coffee tables or like petrified stumps. And I wanted something really like unique and really stand out and really sort of highlight the petrified wood, as well as like the uniqueness of what that particular company can do. And we worked on a custom console petrified wood piece. And when I tell you, that was kind of sort of like an opportunity where I really didn't have a client. I kind of sort of just had free range to kind of sort of just say, hey, what's your wildest idea? Let's just go for it. And that kind of sort of really helped me move into a space of getting more familiar and more comfortable with doing custom projects. So that was one of many that I'm looking forward to.
Wonderful. Christopher, anything that you created recently or whenever that you think you love?
Yeah, we have actually a number of pieces in the works right now, which are pretty exciting. One is a massive bronze dining table, which I'm very excited to realize. Recently, we've also been experimenting with some new materials. We've just done some sconces in rock crystal, which are gorgeous. We've been experimenting with how to facet it and how to best mount it to show the light. And so it's always an adventure. Every piece is an adventure, but when it comes out and it's gorgeous, there's nothing like the feeling. It's so satisfying. We recently upscaled one of our benches, a Keton bench, which is a bronze bench, to a massive coffee table, which I actually have here in this room. And it took 6 guys to carry it, into the apartment, and I felt so bad for them. But it's a 700-pound piece of furniture, and it's so substantial, and that will be, around a long time after all of us are gone. So it's great to see something like that and to realize it.
Timothy or David, anything you want to add there, or else we have some other questions as well.
I've got one that's really sort of
we
fun.
just did a dining table that was probably, I think it was 180 inches. And I think that people, I think this thing has put us all together where we're having dinner together again. Who knows? Wouldn't that be a nice thing?
It's a big family or a lot of friends.
But just be sure and tell everyone who listens to make sure that you can get whatever you order in the door.
Yeah.
Very important.
We had one other question. What is the hardest piece to customize with a client? Table, lighting, etc.
I find the most difficult thing is seating, because what one person finds comfortable, another will not. In terms of both firmness and softness, in terms of the pitch, in terms of the back support, etc. To me, seating is the most difficult, but I think it's also the most important to get right. Which is why we do sit tests throughout the process to make sure that they're feeling that we're giving them exactly what they want. And in many cases, we'll even have 2 different parts of the sofa with different firmness, just for if the husband likes one firmness and the wife likes another, etc. So we really try to make it as tailored to the individual client's tastes as possible.
KD, did you have a thought on that?
I agree. I said seating, and originally that popped into my head was like dining chairs, just chairs in general. I think that is one of the hardest as far as sit, as well as mattresses as well. I had one project in the past where we tried to do like a custom mattress, and it was like the same dilemma. We ended up doing half and half, where one side was a little bit more firmer than the other, and it was a happy medium for the couple.
And we have another one here. Maybe Christopher and David, I'll ask you this of you. Is there a lot of pressure to continually come out with new designs, new innovations? Christopher, I'll let you start.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say pressure so much as, I mean, we have very much a willingness to do that, and we like experimenting. And a lot of times our new collection items, very honestly, are offshoots of custom requests that came through designers. And of course, we'll talk to them and say, hey, do you mind if we do this and make it part of the collection? And that happens quite a bit. So I wouldn't say it's so much a pressure, but it is something we constantly do. It feels like we're in the fashion business sometimes, because we say, oh, we've got to have 3-4 collections a year. We don't do that so much anymore, but we do get about 2, and that seems to be the right amount of tension. And so we're always spurred to create something new, but we're not trying to crank it out. It's really it has to be something special. So obviously, we put the time into that.
Wonderful. David,
Um,
is there pressure to continually come up with new
yeah,
designs?
we do. We try to introduce a couple of collections a year. That can go down to one, or it could go up to three, depending on how much time it takes to develop it, and frankly how good looking it is. We try to establish long-term relationships with our designers. Philippe Stark, Vincent Van Dyson, Terry Hunziker. These are people who've designed for us for 15 or 20 years. And our royalties to them are significant. The relationship is significant. We talk frequently. We interact as regards what does the industry need. We say to ourselves all the time, all the world needs is one more dining chair. But it turns out that there are lots of ways to do that. And we're always looking for something that is evolutionary to our collections, which started with John Hutton, who was Gangia's designer for many years. We try to do collections that are evolutionary of what we've been doing rather than revolutionary. So we have a steady course. We probably have 6 new collections in the works right now, and at any given time, we don't really know which one will be the one we'll introduce, just because the time it takes to prototype it, to approve it, to make sure everything's right, is a time that we allow. So of the 6, we'll probably introduce 1 or 2 in the next 12 months.
Wonderful. We have one more. What are some of the details or pitfalls that a less experienced designer should be aware of when creating custom pieces, other than making sure it will fit through the front door or entry point? Very good. Let's see. Christopher, do you or anyone want to take this away? It's what are some of the details or pitfalls that a less experienced designer should be aware of when creating custom pieces?
Sure. I mean, I can say an example of something we're working on right at the moment is that we're converting one of our chairs, which is an occasional chair, into a dining chair for a client. So we're making 18 of these bronze chairs, and we're putting a cushion on the back. It's a bronze chair. It's called our twig chair, and we want to make it a little more comfortable for the dining table. So, when we scale down the size, that obviously changes the curvature of the back. So we want to make sure that it hits you just right. And so, I'm not saying that this designer is inexperienced. Luckily, she is, but we're also on top of that. We've got to prototype it. We've got to check the thickness of the cushions, the curvature, and really sit test it and get it right. So I think things like that, when you think, oh, I'm just going to change the dimension and that'll be fine, it often runs into other pitfalls. So,
yeah. Totally agree. I think it's scale and proportion is one of the biggest things, where you think, gee, I'm just going to change it, and it has much bigger ramifications. So you've got to always be looking at how one single change will impact the other changes, and getting the scale and the proportion right.
Well, and we won't be bashful about telling somebody if it's ugly. So
You've said that twice, David.
Yeah, we don't like to make ugly stuff. What can I say? So
you just crumple up the cocktail napkin, throw it out.
We do have we have a prototype and engineering perspective, because there are liabilities with these various pieces of furniture. So we have to make sure that it meets a myriad of tests before we can actually introduce it.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's all we have here. And I wanted to say thank you again to all of you, to David Sutherland for hosting, for the D&D building. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day. And thank you to our audience for joining and listening. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.